Hi, I'm Richard Byrne. In this video, I'm going to show you something a little bit different than what you've come to expect on my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a flat on your bicycle wheel. We're in spring now, and a lot of people are going out and taking a bike ride, and knowing how to fix a flat is a fundamental skill if you want to ride more than a mile away from your house. So let's take a look at what you need to get started. First of all, the most important thing is you need one of these. This is a tire lever. These are made by this one is made by Park Tool. These are cheap. They cost about $2. They have a nice flat rounded edge right there. Perfect for lifting your tire off of the rim. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But it's really important to use tire levers. Do not use a flathead screwdriver. I've seen way too many people try to use a flathead screwdriver, or I even saw someone use a butter knife once, and that's a great way to not only ruin your tire, but also ruin your rim. So make sure you get the proper tool. About $2 you can buy these things. I have a link for them down below in the description. You can also just go to your local bike shop and ask them for some tire levers. So you're going to need that. Then you're going to need, of course, a new tube. Where can you buy a tube? Go to your local bike shop. Ask them for a tire tube, tire inner tube. These are about $7. Buy a couple while you're there. If you're not sure what size you need, ask the person at your local bike shop. They'll be more than happy to help you. But if you want to look it up on the internet, if you're an internet shopper and you want to find it there, just look on the side of your tire and you will see the size of your tire and you'll buy the corresponding tube for that. And last but not least, you're going to need a pump of some kind. I have a floor pump here. Again, this one is relatively inexpensive from Planet Bike, about $25. You can buy smaller size hand pumps, but point being, you want to use one of these. Try not to use a gas station air compressor. Not only will they probably not have the right type of connection for you, but you also run the risk of way over inflating your tires. So those are the things you need. Now that we know what we need, let's go ahead and fix this flat that I have here on my bike wheel. All right, so the first thing we want to do here with this tire, and I don't know what I hit, I don't know what I ran over, so I'm going to just do a quick little inspection and try to dust off any sand or any grime that I have and kind of run my hand over it and see if there's anything that's really obvious it's poking out. In this case, I'm not really finding anything. So I'm going to assume it's a pinch flat. And for those who are not familiar, a pinch flat is when the inner tube gets pinched against the side of the rim and it makes a tiny little pinhole. And when it's a pinhole, it sometimes goes flat very slowly. So you may even have ridden for a couple of miles before you actually notice that your tire has gone flat. And so that seems to be what happened here with this tire. I'm feeling something right there, but as I look closer, it's not really there. The other thing that's nice about this is I'm dusting off all the grime and gunk that's on my wheel. Now, once I've done that, I want to make sure I take off the little valve stem cap there. And in this particular case, as we're looking at it, we'll see that we have a little locking ring. And we want to take off that locking ring so that the tube, when it is loosened, will come right off the rim. Now your wheels may not be as tall as mine, they may not be as deep as mine, but the concepts are the same. Doesn't matter what brand you have, doesn't matter how thick or tall they are or how wide they are, the concepts are all the same. So now I'm going to take my tire lever, and again, the lever part is really important because we don't want to damage the rim or damage the tire in the process of taking the tube out and replacing it with the new tube. So let's first just try to loosen it up all the way around. What I'm going to do here is I'm just loosening the tire itself, because sometimes the tire itself is seated really tightly against the rim. In fact, that's something that you want. So we're just going to move that around and make sure it's nice and loose before we take the tire lever. And I like to start right up here where the valve stem is and work my way all the way around with the tire lever. And you can see here that I've just put it in. There's a little notch. I'm going to put that little notch right there on the inside of the tire, and the notch is going to ride right around the edge of the rim. Okay? And so that plastic is really nice. If you did this with a screwdriver or a butter knife, like I mentioned, I saw someone do, you're going to damage not only the tire but also the rim. And while tires are relatively inexpensive, rims are not. Even a cheap rim is going to still set you back $50 or $60. So let's try not to do that. Whereas, you're going to pay $7 or $8 for a tube. So we're going to slowly move that around. And you'll see as I do that, now everything loosens up. Once I get the first 6-10 inches loosened up, the rest of it just slides all the way around. And so I'm going to slide this all the way around, just rotating the tire and the wheel, and I'm back to the beginning. You can see everything here is completely loosened up now. So it's completely loosened up. You don't need to take both sides off. You just need one side to come off your rim. You can leave the other side of the tire still on the rim. And now that I've done that, what I can do here is I can just peel back, and I'll see this tube is exposed. There's my inner tube. And I can just pull up on that and start to work it out of the rim bed itself. Okay. Now in this case, I've got what's called a deep section rim or a deep section valve, and it's being a little bit stubborn. So I'm going to have to put a little bit of pressure on it to get it to pop loose, and there it goes. Popped loose. And now I can just work that tube all the way out and around without having to take the tire completely off the rim. And we'll see here, it's now coming all the way loose and all the way through. So now I have my tube out. One of the things you can do is you can patch these tubes. If you can find the leak in the tube, you can patch it. They make little patch kits, and they're basically just little pieces of essentially really hard, really strong Scotch tape. If you can find the leak, you can patch it that way. If it's a big hole, you're not going to be able to patch it. So there's that piece. So next, we're going to take a look at how to put in our new tube. All right, so now we're going to put in our new tube. I've got this new tube, and I'm going to put it into the rim underneath the tire. Now, before I do that, one last thing that I like to do and that I recommend doing is just taking your finger and kind of running it through the tire. Use your thumb and run it through the tire. Make sure that you don't have anything poking through. I've forgotten to do this a couple of times and put a brand new tube in and had it immediately go flat because I didn't run my hand through to make sure there was no debris in there. So just run your hand through, make sure there's no debris in there, make sure there's nothing that's poking through that you missed the first time around, and then we're going to put the tube inside the tire. And again, I'm using a fairly deep profile rim. If you're on your typical cruiser bike, hybrid bike, or you're on a typical mountain bike, you're not going to have this deeper section wheel. So your valve stem isn't going to be quite as long as this one. This one is a 60 millimeter valve stem. Typically, you're going to have something that's between like 30 and 45 millimeter, 30 and 48 millimeter. So again, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to peel back that tire so I can expose the rim again. I'm going to put it right through here, right through that hole in the rim. And now I'm going to try to work it around into the bed of the rim. Okay. Now when doing this, you want to be careful that you don't pinch the tube too tightly against the rim and the tire. Okay. Because if you pinch it, you can get another little pinhole, and you've essentially created yourself a flat tire before even fixing your tire. Again, that's experience talking. I've done that more times than I care to admit over the years. So you can see I'm just moving this tube gently into place underneath the tire and into the rim bed. And so just going to kind of slide that in there. There it is. And now it's all the way in. Okay. I got my tube all the way in. And one little trick that I like to do, with every new tube that you buy, you're going to find that it has a little valve ring. You're going to screw that on. And just screw that on lightly. Don't tighten it yet. Okay, and you're never going to really tighten it. You're going to have a kind of light thumb pressure, light finger pressure. But I like to put that on there a little bit loose. You know, maybe a thread or two away from actually being mounted up. And all that does is prevents the tube from sliding back out when I don't want it to, while I'm trying to put the tire back on. So now I'm going to put the tire back on, and this is where most people have trouble. Right? Getting the tire off and getting the original tube off is not usually the tricky part. The tricky part is getting that tube back on, or getting that tire back on. And you can see I'm just working it around the rim slowly with my thumb. Okay. And it's going to go really well. It goes really well until about the last. You can see now I got about 10 inches of tire here that's going to be really tricky. Okay. And you know, the people you see working in bike shops, you'll notice that they've developed calloused thumbs from doing this so much. Okay. But this is where your tire lever is going to come in handy once again. And sometimes you may even use 2 tire levers. What you're going to do is you're going to take your tire lever and you're going to put it right up against that portion that's giving you the trouble. So this is where I'm starting to have trouble. Okay? You can see there, all right, now it's starting to get tight as I pull it back on. So what I'm going to do is I like to just slowly use my tire lever to work this back into place. And so there's a lot of ways you can do this. You know, a lot of guys, a lot of people, I say guys, lots of women do this too. A lot of people like to put it down on the ground and maybe firm it up with their feet as they move the tire lever up the wheel. And so that's kind of what I'm going to do here, except to do it for the video, I'm just going to try to hold it in place. Be careful when pulling it towards yourself. I will warn you, I have had it slip a couple times. And, for example, slipped right there, and I just cut my knuckle on the spoke. All right, so just be careful as you do that. And I just did it again. And just slowly guide that around. Boom. Perfect. Now all we have to do, we're going to make sure it is seated all the way around. I don't have anything bulging off the rim. I'm good there. Now all I gotta do, take my pump and pump it up, and I'm done. So that's how to fix a flat tire on your bicycle. Now I promise my next video on my YouTube channel, I'll be back to typical EdTech tools. But if you like this video, let me know. If you find this kind of content useful, please let me know. Fixing bikes, working on bikes, it's one of my hobbies that you would never know about if I hadn't made this video today.